From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Quick note, if you're listening on the radio side, our flagship station, River West Radio in Milwaukee, changing the time slot starting next week, March 10th, Monday, March 10th. The Log will be heard at 1 p.m. following Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. So 2 episodes, Monday and Thursday, starting at 1 p.m. on the radio. For those of you listening to the podcast and subscribing, episodes will drop, as they have been, on Mondays and Thursdays early morning. We'll try to keep doing something on the weekends as well on the Charles Purcell Presents podcast. We'll see how that goes. Sometimes we need extra time to talk about the news. I've got such a pile of stories and ideas that don't make the final cut because we run out of time every episode. I'm thinking one of these weekends we'll pick those all up off the cutting room floor and share them with you. So today, as always, some good news, some bad news, and I want to talk a little bit about promotion, marketing, how to use the media. That used to be my expertise. One of my degrees is in communications, but the world has changed quite a lot since I earned my degree. I'm humble about my position now. And I'll make some suggestions, but I'll also ask you for some advice. Something we've learned about social media is that they're just geniuses out there. Wonderful creative ideas. When media is democratized, yes, there are dangers. You get a lot of crazies, but you also get the kind of genius that couldn't have broken through in my day. Certainly in my youth. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, upcoming events. Immediately here, starting on March 7th through the 14th. And I've seen different ideas on this. Some are saying through the rest of the month. But it's the Amazon boycott. Boycotts are very important. We're going to have another general boycott in April. In the meantime, we've got some one-week boycotts. Amazon, Nestle, Walmart, others. But the one to know about right now, March 7th, here we are, it's here. Amazon boycott. No Amazon, no Prime, no nothing. The boycotts will work. Not on the first day. They take some time to get into the American conscience. They take some time to get media, to get press. They take a little time to get the attention of the CEOs and the boards, but they will work. I believe it. Personally, I'm making all these boycotts permanent starting right now. And I fail occasionally, but I'm doing my best. And I recommend that you do your best. Do what you do what you can. I'm not going to beat anybody up. I'm not going to judge anybody. I'm just telling you, boycotts work if we all do them. So do your best. Amazon, March 7th through the 14th, and longer if you can. There's a march in my town, I know, in Milwaukee, and I'll bet in your town too. March 8th, that's Saturday, right? Yeah, Saturday, March 8th. Women under attack, fight back. Celebrate International Women's Day, Saturday, March 8th. Look for an event in your town. If you're in my area, it's 11 a.m., a rally at Red Arrow Park, followed by a short march over to Turner Hall, where there'll be a panel discussion and a maker's market from 12 to 3 p.m. Demands listed on the flyer that I'm looking at: defend women's reproductive disability and LGBTQ plus rights, patients over profits, stop healthcare closures, defend immigrants' rights, stop mass deportations and the separation of families, justice for the families of police crime victims, end U.S. interventions and sanctions, free Palestine, Lebanon, Yemen, Sudan, Cuba, and the Congo, defend the working woman and her right to organize. So look for the event in your town, Saturday, March 8th, International Women's Day. So those are the events coming up here quickly. Mark your calendar for others, especially the April 18th Economic Blackout number 2 and the big July 4th Independence Day boycott. One more to talk about, and it's coming up pretty quickly here, March 14th, Friday. That's the national strike. That's a big deal, and we talked about it last episode. Be careful, because employers have a lot of power. They can fire you. So don't do it willy-nilly, but if you can participate, absolutely do it. If you're already part of an organized union, get together with your leadership, your rank and file, organize it. If you're on your own, make sure you got the kind of boss who's not just going to fire you, because they can do it. Legally, they can do it. I'm sorry to say. But everyone who can, national strike, not going to work on March 14th. All right, some good news this week. All across the country, the March 4th demonstrations, great turnout. We need that to continue to grow. There were mass anti-Musk protests that took place at almost every Tesla dealership across the United States this week. So yeah, I love the anti-Musk protests. I just saw a video of a Tesla Cybertruck in the Mardi Gras parade getting pummeled with debris. So it's great. Show your outrage, be creative, have fun. Another righteous resignation this week. The top spokesperson for Health and Human Services quit after clashing with RFK Jr. over the management of the measles outbreak. Thomas Corey announced on Monday that he had resigned effective immediately, just 2 weeks after joining the department as its Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. Yeah, so good for them. It's a shame. People want to do good work. Most people work in the government because they want to serve. It's not the most glamorous, high-paying job. Far from it. So it's a shame when people have to quit, but they are righteous resignations. It's the right thing to do, and you got to make a lot of noise when you do it. So that's technically in the good news category. But it's a shame at the same time. So another righteous resignation. Hey, speaking of good news, which I always try to share, I'm going to point you to a source that I would like you to put in your favorites. I'd like you to link it or like it or love it or whatever you do in your particular social media platform. I came across a political science professor, instructor. I don't really know much about this person, by the name of Zan Zusanika. And she's taken it upon herself to post, well, here, I'm looking at one here. Here are 130 pieces of good news. And then she, this is a Facebook post I'm looking at. And then just in the comments, she'll just put in all these little bits of good news. A Minnesota court ruled that Attorney General Keith Ellison's lawsuit against ExxonMobil, Koch Industries, and the American Petroleum Institute can continue. A federal judge blocked Trump's ICE policy greenlighting immigration arrests at churches. So just all these headlines that you can then look up for further information if you want to. But she's been doing this now. I don't know how long she's been doing it. I discovered her a couple of weeks ago. You know, it'd be kind of fun to do a whole podcast every week with nothing but good news. That'd be kind of fun. But, you know, I can't see myself doing that. So I want to recommend this person, and I want you to follow them. I think she's doing a good service here. And it's not just like stupid feel-good stories like I get so sick of. You know, a cancer kid got to score a touchdown and then was given a puppy by their foster parents. You know what? Okay, fine. But no, it's not like that at all. The stuff that she posts are legitimate, newsworthy, relevant to the day. So, Zan Zusanika, Z-S-U-Z-S, Zeus Anika. I want to give her a big plug. I think she deserves it. She deserves a big following. She's doing good work. Good for you. All right, from the good news to the bad news, got to talk a little bit about the State of the Union, which of course is not, they just call it the joint session speech, but who cares? Uh, it was just a big damn show that had absolutely nothing to do with what the regime is really doing. Their little fascist oligarch takeover. It was just a big dog and pony show. It had absolutely nothing to do with reality. The Republican Party, or as I call them, the repugnant party, has shown itself to be just an embarrassment to us, to the nation, to history. And they're entirely unserious. If you saw the speech, they're just these petulant, unruly pack of children raised by wolves. I mean, they were hooting and cheering at all the lies. And as we always say, either you believe the lies, which makes you too stupid to govern, or you know they're lies and you're still cheering for them, which makes you too evil to govern. Either way, we never know who's winning the battle between the evil and the dumb. But it doesn't really matter. They're ineligible to govern. And just something we always have to remind ourselves of. The repugnant party created this guy like Frankenstein's monster. It's not just all about the Orange Menace. He wouldn't exist without them. They made him possible. They breathed life into this monster. They hooked up the jump cords to the bolts on his neck. They made this guy live. Also, I made a note. Here are two things I made note of. I started counting at some point because I noticed during the applause lines, they would only show people clapping. The camera never went to the Democrats. I thought, well, that's a little weird. Half of the people in the room are sitting on their hands. The Democrats didn't clap at anything. But they only showed people clapping. The camera would cut to them. To the point where I lost count. It was dozens of times. So I started counting, and by my count, it was less than, let me look at my notes. What did I come up with here? 8. I counted 8. I probably missed a couple. But yeah, compared to many dozens of camera cuts to the Republicans applauding. Okay. Whoever's making that decision, what's up? One time they did cut to the Democrats was after the recognition of Mark Fogel, the American who was released from a Russian prison recently. And of course, everyone's applauding for Mark Fogel, but the camera cuts to Adam Schiff, who's sitting there stone-faced, looking straight ahead, glum, not applauding. Yeah, that's the one time you choose to cut to the Democrats. And Adam Schiff, what are you doing not applauding for Mark Fogel, you dummy? We won't talk about the Democrats. Good Lord, what a failure. We have no opposition party. We have no opposition party. Of course, Al Green of Texas was booted within the first minute of the speech. Good for him. But then nobody followed him out. I guess a few Democrats over the course of the speech walked out, but the cameras never caught them, so we didn't really know it. Yeah, they all just sat there and listened to this bile. When Green was kicked out, I was hoping, beyond hope, that the rest of the Democrats would just stand up and walk out behind him. That's what I would have done. The other thing I made note of are the topics that got zero mentions. Zero. Not one or two, not in passing. No, zero mentions of poverty in America, of low wages, of high prices, of child care, of elder care. Zero mentions of the future of the Palestinians, not even his ridiculous sort of Riviera Gaza idea. Zero, literally not one mention of health care. You know how for the first 4 years he kept talking about this great health care plan that he had, couldn't wait to unveil, maybe in 2 weeks, all through the campaign. Oh, healthcare. Not a whisper. Not a whisper about the climate crisis, except for one sort of in passing dig about how it's just a hoax and we're going to defund it all. Not a whisper about gutting Medicaid and SNAP, which is clearly in the Republicans' budget blueprint. Not a whisper about $5 trillion going to the billionaires in their tax cut proposal. So those are all the things he didn't talk about. All right, well, that's enough about the speech. There's plenty of coverage on that. A couple of headlines you need to know about: $4 billion in military equipment already en route to Ukraine has been held back. So basically the very same thing he did that got him impeached, he's now doing loudly and proudly in the headlines. $4 billion in military equipment already paid for, approved by Congress. So as always, he commits 10 crimes before breakfast. He commits 10 impeachable crimes before his first Diet Coke of the day. Not only the military equipment, all aid to Ukraine, and intelligence, U.S. intelligence assistance going to Ukraine, currently on pause, as he calls it. In a Fox interview, RFK Jr. recommends cod liver oil for the measles and does not mention a vaccine. So no mention of the vaccine for measles, which is about 98% effective. No, he's recommending cod liver oil. Now, there's nothing wrong with cod liver oil. It's got lots of vitamin A, and it's generally very good for you, and it can help with symptoms. It can even help maybe to prevent if you take 10 or 20 teaspoons a day of the foul-smelling, tasting stuff. So RFK, it looks like he's going to be every bit as bad as our worst fears. Just comically unqualified and ridiculous. You may have heard this week that Trump has directed agencies to bypass endangered species protections in order to increase logging in national forests. Yeah, wants to ramp up timber production across 280 million acres of national forests and other public lands. What a coincidence. That announcement came just 2 or 3 days after naming Tom Schultz to head the Forest Service. Schultz, previous vice president of Resources and Government Affairs at Idaho Forest Group, which sells wood. So a wood guy, a wood executive, a wood salesman named to head the Forest Service. Got your wood here. Yeah, that's, again, it's all one story. Privatize everything, sell everything. All public is bad, all private is good. Yeah, don't let the headlines confuse you. It's all one story. Oh, here's a story I should have had in the good news file. Well, we'll see. The Supreme Court has rejected the emergency request from the Orange Menace that would allow him to freeze all USAID. Of course, he did that early, day one maybe, of his regime. Illegal, unconstitutional, obviously. Any first-year law student knows it. But it went through the courts. He lost, of course. He took it to the Supreme Court. They took a couple of days, but then they came back with a 5-4 ruling saying, nope, you can't shut down USAID. You don't have the authority to do that. What do you know? So a good news win. Will he adhere to the ruling? Probably not. We'll find out. So we'll see where that one goes. It was revealed by ProPublica this week that, according to internal memos, senior USAID leaders warned Trump appointees of hundreds of thousands of deaths from closing the agency. So they knew ahead of time that 1 million children would go untreated for severe malnutrition. Up to 166,000 people will die from malaria, and 200,000 more children will be paralyzed by polio over the next decade, according to the memo. The programs were cut anyway. That's where we are, folks. Thanks to ProPublica, a source I often recommend. Wow. So in this series of episodes, we've been talking about what we can do, how we can do it in our anti-fascist, pro-democracy movement, which is growing, and thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit today about that very thing, what we can do. And I saw some really nice advice that I want to share with you. I saw a post, and I'm sorry I can't give credit. I don't know who said this, but it's good advice. The reason speaking out is so important is that it lowers the perceived risk of those who are still silent and have something to say. Your courage matters. Your words matter. Every voice is a key to unlocking another's. I thought this was just excellent advice from this person who I wish I could credit. Every time you speak up, it gives someone else the courage to speak up. So, yeah, at the very least, do that. Wear t-shirts. Musicians, write "This machine kills fascists" on your guitars like Woody Guthrie did. I just thought that was excellent advice. For those of you out there on the front lines, at rallies, at demonstrations, the Orange Menace had an ominous tweet this week where he's threatening colleges and universities about allowing so-called illegal protests, what he calls them, that students will be imprisoned or deported or expelled. So, of course, he can't do that. He hasn't the constitutional right to make that kind of a threat. It never stops him. I mention it only to, let you know what you're up against. I hope it doesn't keep you from going out, but you should be aware. They've been trying to do this for a long time. Ever since the murder of George Floyd, they've been trying to criminalize protests. Another big push after Israel's genocidal attack on Gaza. So just wanted you to be aware of that. Be careful out there. I'm proud of you. And as promised here, before we leave, just a couple thoughts on promotion. I'm doing what I can on my little podcast. If you have a podcast, I hope you'll do the same. As we've already mentioned, I hope you'll just make yourself public, give a permission structure to others around you to promote democracy, to defeat fascism in America. But we do seem to need a better, or at least an ever-improving landscape of promotion. As I've said many times, we have to get the attention of the mainstream media so that they have no choice but to cover us. It's impossible to ignore us. Corporations and the Republicans seem to have no trouble getting their message out. Well, corporations have lots of money, but so does the Democratic Party, and they fail miserably. It's not really a question of money anymore. The whole question of money in politics is starting to become antiquated. Harris outspent Trump by millions and millions. But they had a pretty good playbook. They knew where to go, especially in social media. There are pages we could pull out of their playbook. Now, they have a couple pages I don't want to have anything to do with, and that is all the lying, the Goebbels kind of strategies that they use. But I guess right now I'm asking more than I'm telling. I'm asking for your advice. What do you think? Billboards? Podcasts? TikTok? I don't know. And I'll tell you also, part of me has serious doubts about the media. I'm not sure. As the great Gil Scott-Heron said, the revolution will not be televised. Well, now I think about that in different terms, because the very notion of television today, I mean, its inherent shallowness, how it cheapens any message, not to mention the fact that only a small handful of the population is even aware of mainstream television anymore. Nobody under 50 even owns a television, at least not for over-the-air and cable viewing. But this cheapening of the message, I think that is also true in today's digital landscape. Maybe the new expression is the revolution will not be digitized, meaning the revolution will not be minimized or infantilized or squashed and marketed and digested and regurgitated, in these simple bite-sized chunks, void of all its vital nutrients. I'm just thinking, and maybe I'm wrong, but tell me, is it possible that we have to have a different mindset? That our movement has to be more and more and more about our physical bodies out in the streets, out in the communities, face to face, talking with people, face to face at town hall meetings, where the Republicans have now been instructed by their leadership to stop having town hall meetings. As you and I talked about last week, hold the meetings anyway. Rent the hall. Send out the invitations. Publicize the event. Tell your representative, here's the date, here's the time, here's the place. We're having a town hall meeting. You're invited. And then when they don't show up, you get lots of footage of the empty podium and the empty chair. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe the protests and rallies, the disruption we always talk about, the civil disobedience if necessary, the teach-ins, all of that and more. You tell me, be creative. Tell me what else should and can we do. But whatever we do, maybe the emphasis really has to be on human interaction, on the streets, in union halls, in private homes, writing postcards, making phone calls, knocking on doors. There's a great debate to be had these days in what works and what doesn't. My faith in social media is waning. And here I am, I'm stuck here. This is what I do. And I'm going to continue to do it. I make my little podcast. I hope it reaches you. I hope it reaches a lot of people. It happens to fit into my particular expertise, experience, and skill set. I'm following my own advice. Do what you do what you can. And what I do, a big part of my day, is thinking and questioning. And right now I'm questioning our methods. I'm not suggesting for a second that we completely turn our back on social media, that we jettison the whole idea. It's probably very important that the right voices get on the right podcasts, that the right creative community make the most effective memes and short videos. That's probably still very important. Honestly, I don't know. My concern is, as I mentioned briefly a moment ago, the inherent shallowness of the whole thing, the diminution, the minimizing of the message itself because of its medium. As Marshall McLuhan said many years ago, the medium is the message. Well, if our message is the medium, and the medium is short-form, histrionic bits of digital noise, I'm not sure that serves our long-term goals. Well, just something to think about. And again, I'd love to hear your feedback on it. In the meantime, all hands on deck, all oars in the water. Nothing left on the table. Leave it all on the field. What other little idioms and metaphors can I throw in? All right, keep up the good work, everybody. We're going to fight this thing. We're going to win. March 7th is our next action. Full-on boycott of Amazon and all Amazon products. Mark your calendars for the general strike on March 14th. So thanks for listening. This and all other episodes can be heard at the website, charlespurcell.com. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. We move to 1 p.m., 1 o'clock p.m., Mondays and Thursdays, starting next week, March 10th. Write to me, charlespurcell@gmail. Follow on Facebook. And thanks to Peter Donalds, who wrote and performed the theme song. All right. Love you. See ya.